The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. Inside its great meeting hall, representatives from dozens of alien species sat in their special chairs. The air smelled of different worlds and different kinds of life. At the center of it all stood Kate Morgan, Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. Kate was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been talking to aliens for 20 years, always trying to make peace, always trying to help. Today felt different. Her hands shook a little as she held her speech pad. "Friends of the galaxy," Kate began, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "For 50 years humanity has served as your peacekeepers. We have stopped your wars. We have fed your hungry. We have died for your causes." The Krex ambassador, a tall creature with red skin and sharp teeth, made a noise that sounded like laughing. "Humans always talk too much," he said. "You are soft. You are weak. We do what we want." Kate looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the other aliens in the room. The Vortani representative, whose people ate entire planets for their minerals. The Zephyr Alliance delegate, who believed only their species deserved to live. "This is humanity's final diplomatic warning," Kate said slowly. "We are done cleaning up your messes. We are done watching you hurt innocent people. We are withdrawing from all galactic affairs." The hall erupted in noise. Aliens started talking all at once. Some sounded angry. Others sounded worried. A few sounded like they were laughing. Kate held up her hand. The room became quiet again. "What happens next is on you," she said. Then she turned and walked away. Far from Nexus Prime, Commander Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of his ship, Terra's Shield. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and serious eyes. He had fought in 3 galactic wars, always protecting civilians, always following orders to minimize damage. His communication officer, a young woman named Lisa Chen, turned to him with a confused look. "Sir, we're getting recall orders from Earth Command. All human forces are to withdraw immediately from all contested zones." Jake frowned. "All forces? What about the refugee camps on Melara 7? What about the peace talks on Vega Station?" "The orders are clear, sir. We leave everything. No exceptions." Jake looked out at the stars. In the distance, he could see the lights of alien ships. Some of those ships belonged to species that had been at war for decades. Without human peacekeepers to watch them, those wars would start again. "Sir?" Lisa asked. "Your orders?" Jake sighed. "Send the withdrawal signal to all human ships in this sector. We're going home." Back on Earth, in a room deep underground, Director Paul Kim sat at a long table with other important people. Paul was a quiet man who rarely smiled. He had been planning for this day for a very long time. "The withdrawal is happening as planned," said Dr. Helen Grant, a woman with white hair and intelligent eyes. "All diplomatic missions are ending. All peacekeeping forces are coming home." "How are the aliens reacting?" asked Admiral Lisa Hayes, a stern woman in a blue uniform. "Exactly as we predicted," Paul said. "The aggressive species think we're running away scared. The peaceful species are begging us not to leave. None of them understand what we're really doing." General Sam Carter, an older man with gray hair, leaned forward. "And if they call our bluff?" Paul looked around the table at the faces of Earth's military leaders. These were people who had spent their careers holding back, always choosing the gentle option, always trying to save lives instead of taking them. "It's not a bluff, Sam," Paul said quietly. "Show them the Erebus files." Dr. Grant touched a button on the table. The room filled with holographic images. Ships unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Weapons that could crack planets. Technologies that seemed impossible. "For 50 years we've been the galaxy's healers," Paul continued. "But healing requires understanding how to hurt. Every medical technique we taught them can be reversed. Every peace treaty we wrote contains our own security measures. Every gift of technology we gave them has a hidden purpose." Admiral Hayes smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "The galaxy thinks humans are weak because we choose mercy. They're about to learn the difference between choosing mercy and being capable of it." Meanwhile, on the outer edge of the galaxy, Captain Ryan Torres received his new orders aboard the experimental ship Earthbreaker. Ryan was a young man with dark hair and steady hands. He had never seen combat, but he had trained his whole life for war. The orders came in a sealed package that required his DNA to open. Inside was a single sheet of paper with words that made his heart race. "Operation Reckoning is now active. Show them what humanity really is, Ryan called his crew to the bridge. They were all young, all human, all volunteers for something they had been told might never happen. His weapons officer, Nicole Adams, was barely 25. His engineer, Chris Bennett, looked like he should still be in school. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan said, our peaceful mission is over. From now on, we follow a different set of rules. He touched a panel on his command chair. The ship's computer came alive with new options, new capabilities that had been hidden even from him. The Earthbreaker began to change. Its white hull turned black. Its simple sensors extended into complex weapon arrays. Its medical bays converted into ammunition storage. My God, whispered Nicole, watching her control panel fill with weapon systems she had never seen before. How long has all this been hidden in our ships? Since the day we first left Earth, Ryan said. Every human ship has been carrying these systems. We just never needed them before. Back on Nexus Prime, the alien representatives continued to argue about humanity's withdrawal. The Krex ambassador was already making plans to attack the Shimmer worlds without human interference. The Vortani were discussing which planets they would consume first. The Zephyr Alliance was planning a purge of the species they considered inferior. None of them noticed the small human device that Kate Morgan had left behind in the meeting hall. None of them suspected that every word they spoke was being transmitted back to Earth. On Earth, in the underground command center, Director Paul Kim listened to the alien plans with sad eyes but firm resolve. They're going to do exactly what we knew they would do, he said to the room. Dr. Grant nodded. The Krex will attack within a week. The Vortani will begin strip mining operations in 10 days. The Zephyr Alliance is planning their first purge for next month. Paul stood up and walked to a large window that showed the Earth's blue sky. Then we know what we have to do. Signal all commands. Humanity is done holding back. 6 months had passed since Kate Morgan walked out of the Galactic Council Hall. The galaxy was burning. Admiral Lisa Hayes stood in the command center on Earth watching dozens of screens that showed the chaos spreading across the stars. Her face was hard and cold as she watched cities burn on distant worlds. Report, she said to Colonel Amy Foster, who stood beside her with a datapad. Amy was a tough woman with short red hair and scars on her hands from old battles. She had been a soldier her whole life, but until now she had only fought to protect people, never to punish them. The Krex Empire launched their attack on the Shimmer worlds 3 days ago, Amy said. 7 planets are under bombardment. Estimated civilian casualties are at 40 million and rising. Lisa's jaw tightened. The Shimmer were a peaceful species that looked like living crystals. They had never hurt anyone. Their only crime was living on planets that the Krex wanted. What about the Vortani? Lisa asked. They've begun strip mining operations on 12 inhabited worlds. They're not even bothering to evacuate the populations first. They're just eating the planets with everything on them. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. The Vortani were like giant bugs that consumed rock and metal for food. For years, humanity had negotiated with them to mine only dead worlds. Now they were eating living planets like they were snacks. And the Zephyr Alliance? Amy's voice became even more grim. They started their purge 2 weeks ago. 15 species have been completely wiped out. They're using biological weapons that we taught them how to cure, not how to make. Lisa opened her eyes and looked at the screens again. Ships that looked like white angels were attacking refugee convoys. The Zephyr Alliance believed they were the perfect species and everyone else was a mistake that needed to be corrected. Ma'am, said a young technician named Maya Rodriguez, we're getting communications from all over the galaxy. They want us to come back. They're begging for help. Lisa laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Show me. The main screen filled with desperate messages. Alien leaders who had called humans weak were now crying for human help. News reporters who had criticized human interference were now demanding human intervention. Please, sobbed a Shimmer representative, her crystal body flickering with pain. We were wrong to doubt you. Come back. Save us. The Krex are monsters, shouted a Vortani diplomat whose own people were being eaten by their government. Only humans can stop them. Please, we need you. We're sorry, whispered a Zephyr refugee whose species had been marked for deletion. We were wrong about everything. Don't let us die. Lisa watched all of this with no expression on her face. Then she turned to Amy. Are our forces ready? Amy smiled. And for the first time in months, it was a real smile. Operation Reckoning is fully active. All ships are in position. All weapons are online. All targets are marked. Then let's show them what humanity really is, Lisa said. Far across the galaxy, Captain Ryan Torres sat in his command chair aboard the Earthbreaker. The ship no longer looked like the peaceful vessel it had once been. It was now a sleek black predator covered in weapons that seemed to bend space around them. "Captain," said his sensor officer, Chris Bennett, "we're detecting a large Krex fleet ahead. 200 ships attacking Shimmer Colony 7. Ryan looked at his weapons officer, Nicole Adams. She was no longer the young, uncertain girl from 6 months ago. Now she was a warrior with ice in her veins. "Nicole, are the kinetic bombardment systems online?" "All systems ready, sir. We have enough firepower to crack a moon." "Good. Chris, send a message to the Krex fleet. What should it say, sir?" Ryan thought for a moment. "Tell them that humanity gave them 50 years to learn how to behave. Class is now over." The Krex fleet commander was a brutal creature named Thakmor who had destroyed 20 worlds in his career. When he received the human message, he laughed until his throat hurt. "One human ship thinks it can fight 200 Krex vessels," he told his crew. "This will be amusing." But as the Earthbreaker moved closer, Thakmor's laughter died in his throat. The human ship was wrong. It was like nothing he had ever seen. Its hull seemed to eat light. "Its weapons made space itself look twisted and angry. Attack!" Thakmor screamed. "All ships attack!" 200 Krex warships opened fire at once. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between them and the single human vessel. It should have been the end of the Earthbreaker. Instead, the human ship seemed to dance. It moved in ways that should have been impossible, dodging attacks that came from every direction at once. Its shields didn't just stop the Krex weapons, they turned them back, sending the energy back at the ships that fired them. "Impossible," whispered Thakmor. "No ship can move like that." Then the Earthbreaker began to fight back. Nicole Adams had spent her whole life training for this moment. Her fingers moved over her control panel like she was playing music. "Firing kinetic bombardment system," she said calmly. The Earthbreaker didn't fire lasers or missiles. Instead, it launched small pieces of metal at impossible speeds. The metal moved so fast it seemed to appear and disappear. When it hit the Krex ships, it didn't just destroy them, it erased them. In 4 minutes, 200 Krex warships became floating debris. The only ship left intact was Thakmor's command vessel, and that was only because Ryan had ordered it spared. "This is Captain Ryan Torres of Earthship Earthbreaker." Ryan's voice came over Thakmor's communication system. "You will withdraw from all Shimmer worlds immediately. You will return all prisoners. You will pay for the damage you have caused. If you refuse, we will visit every Krex world and show you what real bombardment looks like." Thakmor, who had never retreated from anything in his life, gave the order to withdraw. On Earth, in the underground command center, Dr. Helen Grant was giving a presentation to shocked alien diplomats who had been brought to witness humanity's true nature. "You always wondered how humans could be so good at healing," she said. "Standing before a holographic display of human medical technology, healing requires understanding damage. Every cure we developed required us to understand the disease. Every treatment we created required us to understand how to hurt." The alien diplomat stared in horror as the eye display showed how human medical scanners could be reversed to cause the exact problems they were designed to solve. "Your biological weapons?" Dr. Grant continued. "We taught you how to cure those diseases because we created them first. Your defensive systems? We helped you build them because we knew exactly how to break them." A Vortani ambassador stood up, his bug-like body shaking. "This is impossible. Humans are peaceful. You don't have weapons. You don't have armies," Dr. Grant smiled. "We don't have armies. We have something much more dangerous. We have patience, and now we're done being patient." Outside Earth's solar system, hidden in the darkness between planets, thousands of human ships began to move. They had been waiting there for decades, invisible to alien sensors, waiting for the day when mercy would no longer be enough. The galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous enemy was not the one who chose to fight, but the one who chose not to fight until they had no other choice. The war room on Earth was filled with the soft glow of holographic displays. General Sam Carter stood at the center, watching as human ships appeared on the edge of dozens of star systems. These were not the white diplomatic vessels the galaxy knew. These were black warships with names that promised violence: Retribution, Warpath, Vengeance, Nightmare. "All task forces are in position," reported Captain Nicole Adams, who had been promoted after her victory with the Earthbreaker. The galaxy is about to see what we've been hiding. Sam was an old soldier with gray hair and steady hands. He had fought in wars across the galaxy, always holding back, always using just enough force to win but never enough to destroy. Today was different. Execute Phase 2 of Operation Reckoning, he said quietly. Across the galaxy, human ships began to move. Colonel Amy Foster commanded the strike force heading for the Krek's homeworld. Her ship, the Warpath, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Krek system. What she found there made her angry. The space around the Krek's homeworld was filled with ships carrying Shimmer prisoners. The crystal beings were locked in cages barely big enough to hold them, waiting to be sold as slaves or killed for entertainment. "Ma'am," said her tactical officer, a young man named Kevin Price, "we count over 300 Krek's vessels. They have the prisoners spread across 50 different ships." Amy studied the display. The Kreks had learned to use prisoners as shields, thinking it would stop human attacks. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Deploy the extraction drones," Amy ordered. The Warpath released a cloud of tiny machines that looked like metal insects. The drones moved through space faster than the Kreks could track, slipping through their shields like they weren't there. The Krek's fleet commander, a beast named Graktor, watched in confusion as the tiny machines swarmed around his ships. "What are those things?" he demanded. His answer came when the drones began cutting precise holes in his prison ships, but instead of causing explosions, they created perfect rescue tunnels. Shimmer prisoners began floating out of the holes, surrounded by protective energy fields generated by the drones. "Impossible," Graktor whispered. "No weapon can cut that precisely." In 15 minutes, every Shimmer prisoner had been rescued and transported to safety aboard human ships. The Krek's fleet was left with nothing to hide behind. "This is Colonel Amy Foster of the Earth Defense Force." Amy's voice echoed across all Krek's communication channels. "Your prisoners are safe. Your protection is gone. Surrender now or face the consequences." Graktor's response was to order his entire fleet to attack the single human ship. Amy sighed. "Kevin, show them the storm system." The Warpath's hull opened to reveal a weapon that looked like a miniature star. Energy began to build around it, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Storm system charging," Kevin reported. "Ready to fire in 10 seconds. "Fire," Amy said. The weapon released a bolt of energy that split into thousands of smaller bolts. Each bolt sought out a Krek ship with perfect accuracy. When the bolts hit, they didn't destroy the ships. They disabled them completely. Engines stopped working. Weapons shut down. Life support systems failed. In 30 seconds, the entire Krek's fleet was helpless. "This is your final warning," Amy announced. "End all attacks on civilian populations. Return to your home systems. Begin paying reparations to your victims. If you refuse, we will visit every Krek's world and shut down every ship, every city, every machine you have." Meanwhile, at the Vortani mining operations, Dr. Helen Grant was conducting a very different kind of warfare. Her ship, the Scalpel, hung in space above a planet that was being eaten alive. The Vortani had surrounded the planet with massive mining machines that consumed rock and metal. Millions of innocent aliens were still on the surface, screaming for help as their world disappeared beneath them. "Helen," said her assistant, Dr. Tony Miller, "the biological weapon is ready for deployment." Helen looked at the planet below. She had spent decades learning how to cure diseases. Now she was about to use that knowledge in reverse. "Deploy the cure," she said. "Ma'am." "Don't you mean deploy the weapon?" Helen smiled coldly. "No, Tony. Deploy the cure." The Scalpel released clouds of tiny organisms into space. The organisms were designed to cure a specific disease that Helen had secretly introduced into all Vortani food supplies 20 years earlier. The disease did nothing harmful. It just made the Vortani feel healthy and strong. But the cure did something very different. As the organisms reached the Vortani mining ships, the aliens inside began to feel sick. Their stomachs hurt. They became dizzy. They couldn't concentrate on their work. "What's happening to us?" screamed the Vortani fleet commander, a creature named Hive Queen Zara 9. "You're experiencing withdrawal," Helen's voice came over their communications. "For 20 years, you've been addicted to a harmless organism we put in your food. We just introduced the cure. You'll feel terrible for the next few days, but you won't die." "This is biological warfare," Zara 9 accused. "No," Helen replied. This is biological healing. The organism we're removing actually made you more aggressive and more hungry. Without it, you'll find that you don't want to eat entire planets anymore. As the cure spread through the Vortani fleet, the mining operations began to slow down. The aliens found that they weren't hungry for rock and metal anymore. They were confused and sick, but they were also starting to think more clearly than they had in decades. Stop the mining, Helen ordered. Evacuate all civilians from the planet. Begin restoration of the damaged areas. If you comply, we'll provide you with food that will make you feel better. If you refuse, you'll spend the rest of your lives feeling like you have the worst stomachache in the universe. In another part of the galaxy, Captain Ryan Torres was dealing with the most dangerous enemy of all, the Zephyr Alliance. The Zephyr believed they were the perfect species and everyone else was a mistake. They had been using biological weapons to completely wipe out other species, leaving their worlds empty for Zephyr colonization. Ryan's ship, the Earthbreaker, approached a Zephyr purge fleet that was preparing to destroy the last survivors of a species called the Tenderhearts. The Tenderhearts were small, gentle creatures that looked like furry teddy bears. "Captain," said his communications officer, Chris Bennett, "the Zephyr commander wants to talk to you." Put him on screen. The face that appeared was beautiful in a cold, perfect way. This was High Purifier Axel Prime, leader of the Zephyr purge fleets. "Human," Axel Prime said with disgust, "you cannot stop the great cleansing. We are perfection. All others are mistakes that must be corrected." Ryan looked at the alien for a long moment. "You know what your problem is? You think perfection means being better than everyone else, but real perfection means making everyone else better too. Impossible. Only Zephyr can be perfect." "Let me show you something," Ryan said. The Earthbreaker released a swarm of tiny machines, similar to the ones Amy had used but designed for a different purpose. These machines moved toward the Zephyr ships and began attaching to their hulls. "What are those things?" Axel Prime demanded. "Teaching tools," Ryan said. "We're going to show you what perfection really looks like." The machines began projecting holographic images around each Zephyr ship. The images showed the history of every species the Zephyr had destroyed, not just their deaths but their lives, their art, their music, their discoveries, their love for their children. "Stop this," Axel Prime screamed. "We don't want to see this." "Perfection means appreciating all forms of beauty," Ryan said calmly. "You've been destroying masterpieces because you were too limited to understand them." As the images continued, something strange began to happen. Zephyr crew members started crying. They had never seen the full beauty of what they had destroyed. They had only seen differences, not diversity. "Make it stop," Axel Prime whispered, tears running down his perfect face. "Will you end the purges?" Ryan asked. Yes, we'll end them. Just make it stop." But Ryan wasn't done. "Will you help rebuild what you destroyed? We can't bring back the dead." "No, but you can make sure their cultures survive. You can teach their stories. You can preserve their art. You can make their deaths mean something." Axel Prime was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different. "What do you want us to do?" Back on Earth, Director Paul Kim watched reports coming in from across the galaxy. The Kreks were retreating. The Vortani had stopped eating planets. The Zephyr Alliance had ended their purges. "Phase 2 is complete," he announced to the command staff. "All major threats have been neutralized. What are our casualties?" asked Admiral Lisa Hayes. Paul smiled. "0 deaths. Minimal injuries. Complete mission success." The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. They had just ended 3 galactic wars without killing a single enemy soldier. "How is that possible?" asked General Sam Carter. "Because we never wanted to destroy them," Paul said. "We wanted to fix them. And you can't fix something by breaking it more." The hidden command center beneath the mountains of Colorado buzzed with activity. General Sam Carter stood before a massive holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Red dots marked areas of conflict, blue dots showed human forces, and green dots indicated successful peace operations. "Status report," Sam said to his aide, Major Kevin Price. Kevin was a young officer with sharp eyes and quick fingers on his control pad. "Sir, we now have active operations in 47 star systems. The Kreks have retreated from all Shimmer worlds but are regrouping near their home system. The Vortani have stopped mining operations but are demanding food shipments. The Zephyr Alliance is in complete chaos. Their entire society is questioning everything they believed." Sam nodded. And our hidden assets? All 10,000 ships are now active. The galaxy thinks they're seeing our entire fleet, but we've only revealed about 30% of our actual strength. Sam smiled grimly. The galaxy had always underestimated humanity because they only saw what humans wanted them to see. Every diplomatic mission, every peacekeeping force, every medical aid ship had been a carefully controlled demonstration of human capabilities. "Sir," said Intelligence Officer Chris Bennett, approaching with a worried expression, "we have a problem. The three main powers are starting to work together. They're calling it the Anti-Human Alliance." Sam's smile disappeared. "Show me." The holographic display shifted to show secret communications between the alien empires. Despite their defeats, the Krex, Vortani, and Zephyr were meeting in hidden locations, planning a combined attack on human forces. "They think if they work together, they can overwhelm us," Chris continued. "They're gathering every ship they have left. We estimate nearly 5,000 vessels. When and where?" Sam asked. 3 days from now at the neutral zone near the Spiral Nebula. They plan to destroy our fleet and then attack Earth directly." Sam was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he pressed a button on his command panel. "Get me Captain Nicole Adams." Nicole appeared on the communication screen. She was aboard her new command ship, the Silent Thunder, a vessel designed for operations the enemy would never see coming. "Nicole, how many Zephyr command ships are left?" 17, sir. All heavily guarded, all in different systems. I want them all disabled within 24 hours. No kills, just complete system shutdowns. Can you do it?" Nicole grinned. She was no longer the uncertain young officer from months ago. "Sir, my crew and I were getting bored. We've been waiting for a real challenge." The Silent Thunder was humanity's most advanced stealth ship. It could become completely invisible, pass through shields like they didn't exist, and appear inside enemy vessels without warning. Nicole's first target was High Purifier Axel Prime's flagship, the Perfect Light. The massive Zephyr vessel was surrounded by a dozen escort ships and protected by the most advanced shields in the galaxy. None of it mattered. The Silent Thunder materialized inside the Perfect Light's bridge like a ghost. Zephyr crew members stared in shock as human soldiers in black armor appeared around them. "Good evening," Nicole said politely, stepping off her ship onto the alien bridge. "We're here to shut down your ship." "Impossible," Axel Prime gasped. "Our shields are perfect. Nothing can pass through them." "Your shields are very good," Nicole agreed, "but they were designed to stop attacks from outside." "We didn't attack from outside." Her engineers, led by technical specialist Maya Rodriguez, began connecting small devices to the Zephyr ship's control systems. The devices looked harmless, like simple computer parts. "What are those?" Axel Prime demanded. "Teaching aids," Nicole said. "We're going to show your ship how to be peaceful." The devices activated and the Perfect Light's weapon systems began shutting down one by one. Then the engines stopped working. Then the communications array went dark. "This is impossible," Axel Prime whispered. "How do you know our technology so well?" Maya looked up from her work. "Because we helped you build it, remember? 20 years ago, humanity shared advanced computer technology with the Zephyr Alliance. Every computer core, every processing unit, every data storage system on this ship contains human-designed components." "But that was a gift," Axel Prime protested. "You said it was to help us build better societies." "It was," Nicole said. "But we also knew that someday we might need to turn it off." Within 6 hours, all 17 Zephyr command ships were floating dead in space. Their crews were unharmed but completely helpless. Meanwhile, Colonel Amy Foster was dealing with a different problem. The Krex Empire had gathered their remaining forces around their home system, preparing for a final desperate battle. Amy's ship, the Warpath, approached the Krex defensive line along with 50 other human vessels. The Krex fleet was massive, nearly 2,000 ships arranged in perfect battle formation. "Ma'am," said her tactical officer, Lieutenant Tony Miller, "they're demanding we surrender. They say they have enough firepower to destroy 100 human ships." Amy looked at the display showing the Krex formation. "Tony, do you see what I see?" Tony studied the enemy positions. "They're arranged in the classical Krex battle pattern. Maximum firepower focused forward with overlapping shield coverage." "Exactly. And what did we learn about classical military formations in the academy?" Tony's eyes widened. "They assume the enemy will attack from the expected direction." Amy smiled. "Signal all ships. Execute Maneuver 7. The human ship suddenly scattered in all directions, moving in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully calculated. Instead of attacking the strong front of the Krex formation, they appeared above, below, and behind the alien fleet. "What are they doing?" demanded Krex Fleet Commander Thakmor. "This is not how space battles work." His tactical officer, a younger Krex named Krilltek, studied the human movements. "Sir, they're not following any known battle doctrine. They're moving like a swarm of insects." The human ships began to dance around the Krex fleet, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. Their weapons didn't try to destroy the Krex ships. Instead, they fired precisely targeted shots that disabled specific systems. Engine hit on Ship 7. Weapons offline on Ship 12. Communications lost on Ship 18, Krilltek reported in growing panic. Within an hour, the entire Krex fleet was helpless. 2,000 warships floated in space like dead fish, their crews alive but unable to fight. "This is Colonel Amy Foster," came the human voice over their communications. "Krex Empire, you are defeated. Your choice now is simple. Accept peace terms and begin rebuilding your society, or watch as we shut down every machine on every Krex world." Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Grant was preparing the most important operation of all. Intelligence reports showed that the Vortani Collective was planning something desperate. They intended to consume their own colony worlds to gain enough energy for a suicide attack on Earth. "Ma'am," said Dr. Tony Miller, "we've confirmed it. The Vortani are preparing to eat 17 of their own worlds. The populations are being told it's necessary for the greater good." Helen stood in her laboratory, surrounded by biological samples from every species in the galaxy. For decades, she had studied alien biochemistry, learning how different species worked at the cellular level. "How many Vortani are we talking about?" she asked. "Nearly 40 billion across all 17 worlds." Helen closed her eyes. 40 billion lives hung in the balance. If she succeeded, she could save them all. If she failed, an entire species might destroy itself. "Prepare the evolutionary accelerator," she said. "Ma'am?" Tony looked confused. "That's still experimental. We don't know what it might do to an entire species." "I know exactly what it will do," Helen said firmly. "It will give them a choice." The evolutionary accelerator was Helen's most secret project, a biological agent that could speed up natural evolution in any species. Instead of taking millions of years to change, a species could adapt new traits in hours. Helen's ship, the Healer, approached the first Vortani world scheduled for consumption. The planet's surface was covered with massive mining machines operated by desperate Vortani workers. "This is Dr. Helen Grant of Earth Medical Command," she announced to the planet. "We know about your plan to sacrifice these worlds. We're here to offer an alternative." Hive Queen Zara 9's voice came back angry and frightened. "You don't understand, human. We are starving. Without these worlds, our entire species will die." "You're not starving," Helen said gently. "You're addicted. There's a difference, and there's a cure." The Healer released clouds of the evolutionary accelerator into the planet's atmosphere. As the biological agent spread, something amazing began to happen to the Vortani. Their massive, bug-like bodies began to change. Their digestive systems, which had been designed to consume rock and metal, began adapting to process organic matter instead. Their aggressive, hive-minded thinking patterns started becoming more individual and creative. "What's happening to us?" Zara 9 asked, her voice changing as she spoke. "Evolution," Helen explained. "Your species developed the ability to eat planets because you lived on a world with no organic life. But you're not on that world anymore. You don't need to eat rock and metal to survive. You just need to remember how to eat other things." As the changes spread across all 17 Vortani worlds, the mining operations stopped. The Vortani discovered that they could grow food. The Great Council Chamber on Earth's new orbital station, Harmony 1, was filled with representatives from every known species in the galaxy. Unlike the old Nexus Prime, this station was built by humans with a specific purpose: to ensure that what had happened over the past months would never happen again. President Laura Thompson stood at the center of the chamber, looking out at faces that showed fear, respect, and hope in equal measure. Laura was a calm woman with silver hair and steady eyes who had spent her career in politics, always working to find peaceful solutions. Today, she would announce the new reality of galactic civilization. "Friends," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, 3 months ago, the galaxy was burning. 3 empires had decided that might made right, that the strong could prey upon the weak without consequence. She paused, looking at the Krex representative, a younger alien named Krill Tech who had replaced the old war leaders. His red skin was marked with scars from battles he could no longer fight. Today, those empires no longer exist as military powers. The Krex Empire has been restructured as the Krex Cooperative. The Vortani Collective has become the Vortani Republic. The Zephyr Alliance is now the Zephyr Community. Laura's words were not threats. They were simple statements of fact. The old military hierarchies had been dissolved, replaced by civilian governments that focused on building rather than destroying. The question before us today is not whether there will be peace, Laura continued. There will be peace. The question is what kind of peace we will build together. In the back of the chamber, Admiral Jake Sullivan watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. Jake had been promoted from his old position as a fleet commander to become the head of the new Galactic Peace Enforcement Division. His job was simple. Make sure no one ever forgot what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. Admiral, whispered his aide. Captain Ryan Torres. The monitoring stations report all systems are green. Every major fleet in the galaxy is under our observation. Jake nodded. Scattered throughout the galaxy were hundreds of small human bases, each one equipped with sensors that could detect military buildups long before they became dangerous. More importantly, each base contained weapons that could disable entire fleets from thousands of light years away. Any problems? Jake asked quietly. 3 minor incidents. A Krex colony tried to restart weapons production, but we shut down their power grid for 12 hours and they got the message. A Vortani world started strip mining again, but Dr. Grant's people introduced some happy bacteria that made them want to garden instead. And a Zephyr group tried to declare themselves genetically superior, but Captain Adams gave them a history lesson they won't forget. Jake smiled. The galaxy was learning to police itself, but humanity was always watching, always ready to provide gentle correction when needed. At the front of the chamber, President Thompson was outlining the new galactic constitution. All member worlds will maintain civilian governments elected by their populations. All military forces will be limited to system defense only. All conflicts will be resolved through mediation supervised by human peacekeepers. A nervous voice spoke up from the crowd. It was Axel Prime, the former High Purifier of the Zephyr Alliance. President Thompson, what happens if we refuse these terms? Laura looked at him with the same expression she might use with a child who had asked a silly question. Then you would be choosing to exclude yourselves from galactic civilization. You would be alone among the stars with no trade, no communication, no assistance when you needed help. She paused, letting that sink in. But more importantly, you would be choosing to return to the path that nearly destroyed your own species. We have shown you what you were becoming. Do you really want to go back to that? Axel Prime sat down without another word. In another part of the station, Dr. Helen Grant was meeting with representatives from dozens of species, explaining the new medical and biological assistance programs humanity was offering. We have cures for every plague, solutions for every environmental problem, and treatments for every form of suffering we have encountered, she told the group. All of this is available to any world that commits to peaceful development. A Shimmer representative, her crystal body glowing with curiosity, asked, "What do you want in return?" Helen smiled. "We want you to share what you learn with others. We want you to help species that are struggling. We want you to remember that knowledge is meant to heal, not harm." The Shimmer's glow brightened. "You want us to become healers like you?" "No," Helen corrected gently. "We want you to become healers like you. Every species has something unique to offer. Our job is to help you find it and share it." Meanwhile, in the station's intelligence center, Chris Bennett was monitoring the galaxy's communication networks. His job was to watch for signs of trouble before they could grow into real problems. "Sir," said his assistant, technical specialist Maya Rodriguez, "we're seeing some interesting developments. Several former enemy worlds are asking for help with projects that have nothing to do with weapons." Chris looked at the reports flowing across his screens. "What kind of projects?" "Art galleries, music festivals, scientific research centers, cultural exchange programs. It's like they're discovering they can build things other than military hardware." Chris nodded with satisfaction. This was what humanity had hoped for. Not just the end of war, but the beginning of something better. On the main view screen in the command center, Admiral Lisa Hayes watched as human ships moved through the galaxy on missions of assistance rather than combat. The vessels still bore names like Retribution and Warpath, but now they carried medical supplies, agricultural equipment, and teachers instead of weapons. Status report on the Krex worlds? She asked Colonel Amy Foster, who was coordinating the assistance missions. The Krex Cooperative is struggling with the transition to civilian government, but they're making progress, Amy reported. Former military commanders are learning how to run schools and hospitals instead of armies. Some of them are actually quite good at it. And the Vortani Republic? They've discovered they love creating things instead of consuming them. 17 worlds that were going to be eaten are now becoming garden paradises. They're asking for seeds and farming equipment, Lisa smiled. What about the Zephyr community? Amy's expression became thoughtful. They're having the hardest time adjusting. Their entire identity was based on being superior to everyone else. Now they're learning to find value in diversity instead of uniformity. It's difficult for them, but they're trying. They're trying very hard. Axel Prime has started a program where Zephyr citizens live with other species for a year to learn about different cultures. He calls it the Humility Project. Back in the main chamber, President Thompson was concluding her address to the Galactic Assembly. The old galaxy was built on fear, she said. Fear of each other, fear of change, fear of being weak. The new galaxy will be built on something stronger than fear. It will be built on hope. She gestured to the viewing ports that showed the Earth spinning slowly below them. 50 years ago, humanity left its homeworld with a simple goal: to explore the stars and make friends among them. We never wanted to be your rulers. We wanted to be your partners. The chamber was completely silent as she continued. For 5 decades, we tried to achieve that partnership through diplomacy, through aid, through patient negotiation. We held back our true capabilities because we hoped you would choose wisdom over warfare, cooperation over conquest. Laura's voice became firmer. You chose warfare. You chose conquest. You forced us to show you what we really are. She looked around the chamber at the faces of beings who had learned to fear and respect humanity in equal measure. But even in war, we chose healing over harming. Even in victory, we chose building over breaking. We could have destroyed your worlds, enslaved your peoples, taken everything you had. Instead, we chose to give you something you had never had before: a galaxy without war. The silence stretched for long moments. Then slowly, one by one, the alien representatives began to stand. It started with the Shimmer delegate, her crystal body pulsing with grateful light. Then the reformed Krex, the changed Vortani, even the humbled Zephyr joined them. The terms of the new galactic constitution are not negotiable, Laura concluded, but they are also not punishments. They are gifts. The gift of peace, the gift of cooperation, the gift of a future where your children will not die in wars started by your pride. As the assembly ended and the representatives returned to their ships, Kate Morgan, humanity's original ambassador, stood beside President Thompson at the viewing port. Do you think it will work? Kate asked. Can we really maintain peace across the entire galaxy? Laura was quiet for a moment, watching the stars. Kate, for 50 years we proved that we could make peace. In the last 3 months we proved that we could enforce peace. The question isn't whether we can maintain it. The question is whether they'll remember why they need it. Kate smiled. And if they forget? Then we'll remind them, Laura said simply. As many times as necessary. Far below them on the surface of Earth, children played in parks while their parents worked in laboratories and factories that produced medicines, tools, and art instead of weapons. The planet that had once